Welcome to our May the 16th, 1989 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you our history tape number 95, going back into the history of Grand Prairie of the past, and for those who made the history and what they're doing in Grand Prairie and the environs today. We are so excited today to bring you a very special brother and sister that really have a lot to tell about Grand Prairie, Texas, and about their life here in our city. We're pleased to welcome Bob Shanks. Bob, we're glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Rita.
And your wonderful sister, Sammy Shanks Pickerell. Pickerell, okay. We're going to get that right, aren't we? We're glad to have both of you all with us today, representing the Shanks family. All right. Let's begin our interview with a very special young man that has been a long time on our scene, but is still into the action here in Grand Prairie. Mr. Bob, would you look out into your camera and let us know about the genealogy? We'd like for you to give your parents' name and all of your brothers and sisters, and then we're going to reserve a little bit of that for Sammy in a little. Would you do that for us?
Yes, I sure will.
Document us, would you?
All right, fine. My father was Dr. Robert C. Shanks. He was born in 1882, and my mother, Neva Lucille Shanks, she was born in 1892.
And would you give us her maiden name, please?
Lucy Beaver.
Miss Beaver, okay.
And then, of course, my sister, Sammy, she was the oldest of the group. Then my brother, he was older than I. I was the youngest.
All right, and give us your brother's name.
My brother was Harvey Shanks,
all right,
who is deceased.
Okay. And, now, your parents came to Grand Prairie in what year, and if so, where from, and what caused them to come to Grand Prairie, Texas, Mr. Bob?
We came in 1923,
okay,
and my dad graduated from Tulane Medical School, and he first started practicing in Talbot, a little city out to the northwest of here. And then at that time it was horse and buggy. It's the only way they had to travel, and they'd get in that buggy, rain, sleet, or snow, and do their rounds. And that's when an office call would be about 75 cents, and a house call at 3 o'clock in the morning would be about maybe $1.50.
I see.
And then after that they moved to Bells, Texas, up in Sherman, up just to the east of Sherman in Grayson County. And then after living there 2 or 3 years, now that's where I was born, in Bells.
All right.
It had about 200 people at that time, and probably now about 150. And then we moved to Grand Prairie, thinking that it would be a far better place with more people to serve between Dallas and Fort Worth.
All right, now could you tell us about your dad's parents? Were they from Texas, or did they migrate from another state?
Sammy, can you help me there?
I believe our grandfather Shanks moved from North Carolina.
From North Carolina.
Or Tennessee, in that area.
In that area. Well, that's wonderful.
And initially they came from Ireland.
Oh, they did?
His grandfathers.
So you are of Irish descent on down the line from either Tennessee, South Carolina, and then,
yes.
Now your mother's parents, the Beavers, tell us a little bit about them.
My mother's great-grandfather, or my great-great-grandfather, was the last survivor of the Battle of San Jacinto. And he was born in 1817. His name was Alfonso Steele, and he was really no hero, but he just outlived them. But his photograph hung in the Capitol for years, and has since been moved to the library at the Capitol.
Oh, that is a wonderful history that you have then.
Yes.
The Battle of San Jacinto, very important date for Texas that we celebrate on April the 21st, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's let you rest just a minute. We're going to get back with you, but let's go back now to Sammy. Now, Sammy, since you're the older of the group, And you're not going to tell us how old you are. We won't ask you all of that good stuff. We would like to know where you were born and how you followed your parents around. Would you tell us about that?
I don't mind telling my age. I'm
Good.
77.
Wonderful, beautiful 77. How splendid.
And I was born in Curving, Texas, Kirven,
And that is in what county?
Freestone.
In Freestone County.
It's down near Mahia, Wortham, Teague, Fairfield, that
All right,
area.
Okay. And if you were born in that area, how long did you live in that area before your parents moved you around to all of these other spots?
3 or 4 years old
Uh-huh.
when we moved to Talbot.
And to Talbot. And where did you start to school as a young person?
In Bells, Texas.
In Bells, Texas. All right. And in Bells, Texas, was this a big school or a country school? Tell us about that.
It was a country school,
All right.
like Grand Prairie was when we moved here.
Was it an 11th grade or maybe a 7th grade school?
It was more than a 7th. I don't know about the high school.
And then when you left Bells, Texas, how long, where did you go then?
Grand Prairie,
You came on into Grand Prairie, and you went to school in Grand Prairie for a while. What grade?
I went through the first year of high school,
The first?
and then 2.5 years at Sunset.
In Sunset, to Sunset High School. You were a Sunset Bison over in Oak Cliff. And did you still live in Grand Prairie but commute to Sunset High School?
Commuted by the Interurban,
By the Interurban. For how many years?
2.5.
2.5 years. That was a very exciting thing. We have something in common. I commuted from Grand Prairie, the East End, to Sunset High School on the Interurban until the Interurban went out of business. So that is very exciting. And tell me, when you were in Sunset High School then, you missed a lot of the camaraderie in Grand Prairie, but name us some of your teachers or your principal or something at Sunset that you'd like to put into this record, or maybe your favorite teacher or your favorite subject.
Well, back in Grand Prairie, my first science teacher, the first year of high school, was Miss Leela. I'm sorry, I don't remember. Her last name has Ingram, Miss Leela Ingram.
All right.
And she later married Mr. Hudspeth, the principal.
Oh, yes.
Or the superintendent.
Yes, the
I don't-
superintendent.
And I don't remember, who was the principal at Sunset when you were there?
W.T. White. Mr.
Uh-huh.
W.T. White was the principal when I was there.
And Mr. Bush was the football?
Yes, Mr. Bush was the football coach.
Uh-huh.
Did you have any favorite teachers at Sunset High School that you would like to remember?
I don't remember their names.
You don't remember their names. Okay. And you graduated what magic year from Sunset High School?
January 1930.
January 1930. And then what happened to Sammy? Did she continue on her education, or what did you do then?
I took a business course until September, and then I entered pharmacy school at Baylor. And there were so few students in the freshman class that it was discontinued. So the following September, I entered nursing at Baylor
And graduated from Baylor
in 1934
in 1934 and had a career in nursing apparently?
for about 50 years.
For about 50 years. And Sammy, where do you live now?
I live in Dallas.
You live in Dallas, Texas. Tell me a little bit about your family. Do you have a family?
I have a daughter and 3 granddaughters.
Would you like to name drop?
Ann
Is your
White
daughter?
is
Ann?
my daughter.
All right.
Her husband is J.W. White. And my granddaughters are Terry, she's 25, Vicki is 20, and Tracy is 18.
All right, and where do they live? In Dallas?
Louisville.
Oh, in Louisville, Texas. Well, most of them are out of school by now then, aren't they?
Yes.
Yes. That sounds very exciting. Well, you've given us a good wrap-up, but while you were living in Grand Prairie, Texas, is there anything special that you remember about the town, where you went to church, or what you were involved in here in Grand Prairie? That's what we're interested in our tape, too.
I attended the Baptist Church in Grand Prairie and especially enjoyed BYPU on Sunday nights.
Okay. That sounds very exciting.
Enjoyed grade school in the first year of high school.
Do you remember any of your teachers in grade school?
No.
Okay. We'll let you rest for a few minutes more. Now let's get back to Mr. Bob. Mr. Bob, a long-time Grand Prairie, and you were how old when you moved to Grand Prairie, Texas from Bell?
Let's see, I was about 3 years old.
About 3 years old. So you started into school in Grand
Yeah.
Prairie and ran the gamut. Tell us about your school career here. Would you do that?
Yes, I went through all the Grand Prairie school, both elementary and high school. And then after that, I went to
Graduated in what magic year?
in 1938,
1938.
which we recently had our 50th anniversary, which you
All right.
attended.
Yes.
And after that, I went to NTAC, North Texas Agricultural College in Arlington.
All right.
And then after 2 years there, I had been flying, and I got my commercial license, and I joined the Royal Canadian Air Force in about March of '41. And then they got a direct commission in the RCAF, of which I ferried aircraft in RCAF. And then along came our war, and they transferred us back to United States at the same rank we had in the RCAF,
That was
which at that time
wonderful.
was a first lieutenant.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to school in Smyrna, Tennessee to check out on the B-24, then was stationed in Fort Worth at Carswell for about a year and a half instructing on B-24s. And then after that, I wanted to go fight. I couldn't be satisfied to be 20 miles from my home and had a nice place to live, but I wanted to go fight. But nevertheless, joined the B-29s, the first B-29s, and which here's a
Hold that
picture.
right up under your tie there.
Here's a picture of the B-29.
Oh, that
Which
is
is
your group.
Yeah, this is my crew out there. In fact, they're all living with the exception of 3.
All right, and the name of your plane?
Monsoon Mini.
Monsoon Mini. Oh, that is wonderful. Well, let's hold this one to one side. And do you have any more memorabilia of your military career there that you'd like to show and tell?
Yes, this was a picture of in Rangoon, Burma. This is where I wound up after being shot down on December 14, 1944. And this is where we wound up in this old British prison that the Japs were used. And
In Rangoon.
Rangoon, Burma.
Oh, that is
and,
great.
Then,
And is this your photograph when you were?
Here was when I was younger.
All right.
That's when I was 25 after returning from the service.
That
And,
is wonderful. All right, now we're going to leave this one for a few minutes, but we want to get on to this beautiful picture that we have of Letha, right over here. I believe it's in this stack. Now let's get back to high school, and you met a beautiful young lady here at high school, and we've given her name and her parents' names. So let's talk a little bit about Letha.
Okay.
All right. How did you meet Letha Wilson?
I met her at the picture show,
Met her at the movie.
Walker's Picture Show.
All right.
But we've been married 48 years, and she's 19 here just before we were married. And besides that, I started going with her when she was 12. So
Oh.
that's 7 times 48, so that's about 55 years of,
That you all dated.
yeah.
Oh, that is wonderful.
But not
Not
too much
officially.
at 12. No.
You just met at the movie,
Yeah,
didn't
that's
you?
right.
You bet a lot of that was going around then, wasn't it?
Exactly.
All right, now tell me, you and Letha have been married all these years. Do you have children?
Yes, we have one son, Glenn, born in 1954.
All
And
right,
a daughter by the name of Deborah. She was born in 1957.
all right. Do either one of them have families? And if so, we'd like you to name their families in its entirety.
Glenn has one little boy, 8 years old, by the name of Matthew.
All right,
And that's all the grandchildren that we have.
all right. That is
And
great.
Deborah is not yet married.
All right.
She works for American Airlines.
Oh, that is wonderful. Well, we wanted to show and tell Letha we're sorry that she
Okay.
was ill and
Yeah,
could not
she's
be
ill.
here today. But is there anything else that you'd like to show us?
Yes, I have.
Who is this beautiful?
This is my mother.
All right, let's show your mother. That is Neva Lucille.
Neva Shanks.
Neva Shanks, Beaver Shanks.
Yeah.
Wonderful. She was a beautiful, beautiful lady
Yeah,
and
she
very
was.
important in the city. And she was in the society circles, as I remember her many long years ago.
She did all the daddy's nursing and the collecting of the money.
All right.
And I never did choose to be a doctor. Because at that time, a doctor didn't get paid very often.
All right.
And so I wanted to pick an occupation I was going to get paid, so I didn't want to.
All right. Are there
choose to be a doctor.
any of these others that you would like to show?
Yes, I think this is a good picture. Good picture of her.
And that is your mommy?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. And these others are of your mother?
And these are, yes.
Okay. Well, let's pass those and go into this little
And
packet.
this is my father.
Okay, now let's get Dr. Shanks and let's talk a little bit about him while we have his picture up there. He was a well-known physician in this
He was a
town.
great person.
Oh, he was
He
wonderful.
loved everybody. And
And he served this town for how many years?
he died in 1943 for many, many years. And at that time, doctors and their patients were very friendly.
Very close,
So,
weren't
such
they?
as an example, Mary Jean Douthit, when she had her tonsils removed, well, he took her to Baylor and had her tonsils removed, then brought her back to our home for a couple of days, and then took her back at Florence Hill. And the other day I was visiting with Mr. Glenn, and we picked cotton. My brother and I picked cotton out there when we were, I think I was maybe about 8, my brother about 11. And Mr. Glenn said, y'all boys would just pick enough to make a mattress and lay down between the rows.
He wasn't impressed with your productivity,
That's right.
was he?
But we stayed out there several days with them, and we ate more their food than we did.
Well, were the Glens some of your best friends?
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us
And all the people in Florence Hill, all the area.
anywhere
and-
your doctor dad went?
That's right.
Oh,
Because he brought many a person into the world, and
Yes.
they were great friends. Some, maybe seven or eight children in one family that bring into the world.
you have an exciting photograph here, I think, that we need
Yeah,
to talk about.
this was while he was in Tulane, dissecting a body.
Uh-huh.
And then he also did time in, spent some of his school time in Galveston.
In Galveston, Texas. Okay.
And he was president of the school board.
All right.
He was active in the
In the community.
in the community.
President of
And
the school
everybody-
board. What else?
Everybody liked him. He was very friendly.
Was he into Rotary or any of the clubs? Or Lions?
I think, I don't recall, Ruthie,
Uh-huh.
but if anyone wanted anything other than just medical, if they wanted to counsel, they'd seek him out. He was
Now,
just a fine
where
gentleman.
did you all live when you were here in
When we
Great
first
Britain?
came to Grand Prairie, we lived at the end of Church Street, right across the street from Dewey Miller, where he lives now,
All right.
and which is northwest 6 and Church.
Mm-hmm.
And then we built a house on College, just where you pay your electric bill on the drive-through window.
All right.
And then the next place we lived is diagonal across the street from the Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm.
And then we built a house directly west of the Methodist Church. And Daddy officed in the back of the drugstore. Back many years ago, when I was just a child, Dear Miller and Daddy bought a drugstore together, and Daddy officed in the back of the drugstore. And keep talking about the grocery store. Now, C.R. Sargent was a couple of doors away. That we'd always go through the back door to get our groceries, but he was truly a fine person.
All right. Now, do you have anything to tell us about your school, your favorite teacher, all through
I
elementary?
remember Sibylline Neal Kiesler. I remember her, and she was, when I was about 10 years old, she was one of my milk customers as well.
I see.
I had a cow, and we had milk for the family, and then we had excess. And then
So you peddle milk?
peddled milk. She was one of my customers.
Oh.
Then the business got better, and I got 2 cows, and then still got better. I had 3. So I wound up with 13 house customers in the drugstore, and the grocery store, and Nichols Cafe. We borrowed milk for our noon meal. And then football came by, and then I had to
drop the milk
drop
route.
But it was good, and I enjoyed that. And deliver the milk, you have to get up early, whether it's raining or snowing or what. And George and Earl Latham, I'd pay them 50 cents a week to milk 1 cow twice a day. And
You were an entrepreneur of the very first sense, and a young person. All right, now when you got back from the war and settled down, and I notice here that you have something to show and tell, that you served on the City Council of Grand Prairie. Would you like to hold that up and tell us what year you served and those fellows that you served with?
this was 1959-61.
This camera, right
Okay.
here.
There was James Weems was the mayor, and George Watson, Bud Hardiman, and Dr. H.H. Milling and myself were the council members. And we were going to get in there and change the world.
Yes.
And but only when you got in there you found you didn't know very much about what you could do. But nevertheless, they were all a fine group of people, and I enjoyed serving. I guess I'm the only one that was elected that didn't rerun. I had plenty after 2 years.
After 2 years,
So
that
I
was
didn't seek re-election.
so that was enough,
That's it,
wasn't it?
yes.
Well, we appreciate your service for the city, and we're so glad that you brought the picture that
Well,
we
thank
would
you.
have that memorabilia with us. And now, Bob, after doing all of this, what were you doing for a living during this time?
Well, I was a home builder.
All right.
Well, first, after I got out of the service in latter part of 45, I built a movie theater in Brady, Texas, a town about 7,000 people, and built the theater, opened it and managed it, and then I was affiliated with Universal Pictures, and I had a franchise on their pictures, and so when the theater opened in May of 46, they flew Yvonne DiCarlo in this little community for a couple of days. Now, she was a starlet, however, at that time.
She was a beautiful starlet.
Yes, she was. And then after that, then later, I sold the theater and moved back to Grand Prairie in 1948 and got in the real estate business and got my broker's license in 48. And then in 1950, I started building houses. I built 4 on Northeast 12th Street and 2 on Davis. And then I worked it in with my real estate business and retired about 3 or 4 years ago from the building business.
Right, and now since you've retired, you're just having fun, right?
Yes.
Trying to keep up with Letha.
That's right.
That's
Which
it.
hard to do.
That's hard to do. We're going to get back with you in just a minute, Mr. Bob. But now let's go back to Sammy. Sammy, you mentioned being approximately 50 years in the nursing business. Tell us some of the places, if you were stationed at large hospitals or small, or tell us a little bit about your career. We'd like to know a little bit about that.
I did private nursing. I did that at Medical Arts Building and Baylor and Methodist.
Always in the proximity of Dallas?
Yes, always. And then in 1950, I was a school nurse for 2 years
At what
in
school?
Pleasant Grove.
At Pleasant Grove?
That was before it became part of Dallas. And then I worked on the floor of Baylor several times. And my last work was in the recovery room at Baylor for about 10 years.
And that was a wonderful experience,
Yes,
wasn't it?
very.
Well, you've had a very special life, and we appreciate your contribution. I'm so sad that it wasn't all in Grand Prairie, Texas at our DFW Medical Center, but we're going to let you come back in life one of these days and belong to us all here in Grand Prairie, Texas. Mr. Bob, we need just a little bit about you and your relationship with this town. That's really your town. tell us about growing up here and seeing it change, the differences you've seen, some of the important people here in town that have changed your life. Look out and give us a testimonial
Yes.
about the city, would you?
Yes, sure will. At the time that we came, I remember a population being about 500 people. And it was, when it rained, it was muddy from the north side to the south side of the street. And Daddy officed in the back of Hancock's drugstore when we first came here, and Dewey Miller worked for Mr. Hancock, as I remember. And then they got together and put in a store across the street, which Daddy operated in the back of Dewey's store. And then I was soda jerk. But I think someone that's had a great influence on my life through the years, who I think is one of the finest gentlemen I've ever known, is Dewey Miller.
Yes.
And but I worked for Dewey for several years as a soda jerk, and it's when you make the milkshakes for 5 cents, you'd have that would be running over full for a nickel, which was ice and milk and flavoring.
Yes.
And then I used to caddy for Dewey when he played in Arlington at the Meadowbrook Golf Course. And but he and Ruby Miller are two fine people that I sure have enjoyed knowing. It had a lot of effect, I think, on the direction of my life.
All right, do you belong to any clubs that have been important in your life?
No, we do belong to the membership. We have a 40th Bomb Group, our overseas group. We have a reunion every year.
Yes.
And see all our old friends that we flew with, and my crew, most of my crew comes, and there's still 8 of us living after all those years.
That's magnificent.
And we go to this reunion, and everybody has a good time.
And the change you've seen in Grand Prairie since the main street was muddy down the middle until you saw the pike go through and then finally Highway 80. Tell us what you think the greatest change brought about all of these different things to Grand Prairie. Just natural attrition, or do you think maybe the factory that came in out here, or a flying field, or?
Well, I feel like the factory was the big thing that really, put Grand Prairie off and running. And because I think they employed, best I recall, maybe as many as 25,000 people at one time.
What do you think the biggest future for Grand Prairie? We have 1 minute left to wrap up.
I think our location is our future.
Our future.
Because we couldn't be better located to reap all the benefits and the glory there is to have.
Sammy, he sounds like the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. Well, I want to thank you, too, for coming and sharing 30 minutes of wonderful history of the Shanks family and pitching in a little bit for the Wilson family while you were here. And you've been a delight to interview. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.
Thank you.
Would you shake hands with me?